G'day guys, how you going? Hope you're having a fantastic day. Me again, second video today. Now I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Now I said before Christmas I'm going to get into reading. I got a pretty cool book for Christmas, so over the Christmas period I read it, finished it, and so I'm going to be doing a book review today. Now if these book reviews prove interesting, then I might do some more after I've read some more books. Haven't read in a very long time, so I thought I'd have to jump back into it. Now this book is quite a disturbing sort of book. Reminded me, was a lot different from Jack Ketchum, but the same sort of disturbing, sort of sinister storylines. I don't think this one has been released in the UK or America yet. I could be wrong, but on Amazon I had a look at it, and on Amazon it hadn't been released. You can pre-order it, so I'm assuming that it hasn't been released in those countries. But here in Australia, it's a very new release, so I was very happy to get it. And this is Dean Koontz's What the Night Knows. Now, Dean Koontz is a pretty well-known author. This is the first book I've read of his. So it's basically about this kid named John Calvino. His family one night are brutally slaughtered by this sadistic, psychopathic serial killer named Alton Turner Blackwood. Now, Alton considers what he does as art, and he is a serial killer of families. So he kills in families, and of particular, has to be a precise number of females and males in their family for him to target them. So one night, John's family is brutally slaughtered, but before Alton can kill John, John gets the family gun and shoots Alton dead. And so Alton never got the chance to finish off his masterpiece. So 14 years pass, and John has since become a detective. And he's got a family of his own. He's got 2 young daughters, a young son, and a wife. And he's called to this murder scene where this 14-year-old named Billy has brutally slaughtered his own family. And Billy is locked up in the state mental hospital. And so John pays him a visit. And to John's horror, these murders were very, very similar to the murders 14 years earlier from his own family. So John is suspecting that Billy is a copycat. He read about Alton Blackwood somewhere, and he's copycatted the killings. But as the story goes along, John becomes paranoid that if Alton Turner Blackwood's spirit has come back and possessed these people to commit these very similar crimes, so that he can wreak vengeance on John and his family, and he can finish off what he wanted to accomplish 14 years earlier before he was killed. So as the story goes on, it turns out from a murder mystery, and it turns more into a supernatural kind of demons sort of book. And that's as far as I'll go with the story. If you want to know more, you're going to have to read it. But I have to say, for a first book that I've read in a long time, I really enjoyed this. Now, my concentration at the best of times, it can come and go, especially when I'm reading. I can zone out and then I zone back in. But I found that this book kept my interest from start to finish. It's just how well it was written. It's a pretty big book, but the writing isn't too small, so it's pretty easy to go through. Now, there are a lot of characters in this book, but what I liked about it is so many characters, but with little description, you know a lot about them. He gets straight to the point with the characters. At no stage of this book do you think, oh, just get on with it, come on, come on. He gets straight to the point. Limited description of characters, but a very in-depth sort of description, so you know exactly a character will come in all of a sudden, and you'll feel as though they've been in the story for a lot longer than he's written them, if you know what I mean. It's just the way it's done. It's just written so well. Now, it is a very disturbing sort of book. There are things from pedophilia, incest, child killings, rape, murder, and ghosts, and just really strong sexual kind of language, but not in a loving way. It's a very demeaning way, like the killer's spirit says these horrible, horrible things to little girls. And there's also pedophilia themes. There's a very, very disturbing section of this story that involves a pedophile priest who was kicked out of the priesthood, or whatever you call it, for his unhealthy obsession with teenage boys and girls. So that was a really disturbing sort of passage from this book. But yeah, Dean Koontz, I haven't read anything else from him, but this one, if this is anything to go by, I'll definitely go out and check his other books. What I didn't like about the story, I thought the young daughter and the 2 young sisters, the daughters of John, they were a little bit annoying. They were only 8 and 11, but they had a really mature, I think it was a little bit too mature. The language that they were using seemed well beyond their years. They were in fact smart girls, but I thought it was just a little bit too unrealistic, in my opinion. But yeah, and they were also pretty annoying. But then again, 8 and 11-year-olds, I guess they are going to be pretty annoying from time to time. The son wasn't as annoying, but I think the children in the story were the worst characters. John Calvino, the main character, he's a very, very interesting one. He's got a very troubled past. He's got a lot of torment, as you could imagine if you witnessed your own family being brutally slaughtered. He's a very interesting character to know. He's a very likable character. I thought the wife, if I can remember what her name was. No, I can't, but it was Nicolette, something like that. But she was actually a pretty well liked sort of character. She had a very warm heart. And the killer, you get to read a bit of passages from his diary, and that was really, really, really disturbing. There's everything from incest. His father and mother were also brother and sister, so he was deformed as a result of incest. So that was a really disturbing sort of part as well. Quite some the brutal parts of this the brutal parts of this book. Sorry, I'm forgetting how to speak. The brutal parts of this book were quite vivid, and there are a few disturbing sort of parts to it, especially at the end. I mean, it starts off at a very good pace, and it paces itself really well throughout the whole book, but at the end it just turns up a notch and goes crazy. Everything pays off really well. It's a good build-up, and you sense that something bad is going to happen towards the end, and it does, and it never lets up, and it is just a really, really good book. I highly recommend it. If you're into Dean Koontz, if you're into the disturbing kind of stories, I highly recommend this book. I really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Very, very good book. Alright guys, I hope that review was good, and as I said, if there's enough interest, I'll be doing some more. Got a few Stephen King stories I might review after I've read, but yeah, that's the book I read over the Christmas break. I hope you like this review, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.